Hi, welcome to Rajal Naik. In this video, we are going to discuss about SOP part because most of the people who is working in their job environment to perform any kind of task or a procedure and all that, there are some required steps to be followed. So this is something which can be applicable even for IT and is even for non-IT. Usually SOPs are something majorly to explain about the kind of steps that which are required for us to complete a particular process of an application. So you can relate this for IT or non-IT, the procedure and as well as the standard of the steps, what is that we require to follow remains constant, which is called SOP in short, which is normally we call it a standard operating procedure. So the standard operating procedures are essentially important for any organization. Majorly, it will be helpful for few things. One is this will be helpful for them to improve the quality of work, what is that they are performing. At the same time, it will also helpful in reducing the errors of the work, what they are performing, especially as an example of IT application as a note. I'll explain this point to you so that you will be understood. Especially in the field of IT, whenever we are working on application development, so there are different people, different roles will be there, right? Like project management team will take care of project management part. Even business analyst team will take care of business requirements. Development team will start working on the code. Architects will develop architecture for the project. Testing team will take care of testing, right? So user interface designers will prepare user interfaces, all that. So everybody have their own roles and responsibilities to perform their tasks which was given to them. But these people are capable enough to complete the task, but how to do, what standards to require to follow may not be known to them. So this SOP is what generally tells you, because what to do, you know, how to do, you know, but what standards do you require to follow and what steps to be followed to complete this particular process may not be aware to everyone. So any organization, especially in the field of IT, so there are some standard operating procedures will be given by the organization. Majorly, it will be helpful for them to improve the quality of work, what an individual or a group of people are performing during the day or a particular time. At the same time, the standard operating procedures will also be helpful to reduce the errors, whatever the errors due to the lack of understanding if they are doing and all that. So it will helpful in reducing the errors itself. At the same time, it also increases the efficiency in completing the tasks, whatever the tasks they were completing. So whatever the task they wants to perform, all that. So it increases the efficiency in completing the tasks as well. So this is what generally in standard operating procedure is all about. So this is majorly, as I told you, this is majorly useful. This is the document which majorly useful for any organizations to perform their work more qualitative and as well as more better. So when you talk about in a visual representation part in reference to the SOP, this is what usually it was like SOP have different variants where we will be mentioning about the scope and purpose of it, because whenever we are preparing an SOP document, because most of the people may not have a clear awareness about how this is to be prepared. So the importance and as well as the purpose of making this video to have a give a clear understanding over the document of standard operating procedures, how we prepare and what is exactly the process to be required to follow as far as the life cycle itself is concerned. So this is what generally it was like, wherein first we need to mention about the scope and purpose, scope of working, what is that we need to perform. So either the scope may be extent possible to understand about the existing as well as new systems, and why is this scope and as well as the purpose is required and what are the objectives we want to achieve. So this can be of any application development. Let's say you're developing an application for an insurance company, right? So for example, an insurance management system we are developing. So or when you're or policy management system, whatever it is, right? So policy administration systems we are developing. when we are developing an application in reference to the IT application itself, so team should know about the kind of scope, the kind of possibilities we have, because the applications may be an existing application sometimes, wherein we have to upgrade this application to the next level, right? So technology or as well as system migrations has to be done, or existing application has to be upgraded to the next level by adding some new features and functionalities, or else we will need to develop a new application as separate based on the ground level requirements what we have taken. So in the standard operating procedures, we need to know about the scope of the existing work, what we are performing or the application. We must be knowing about existing and as well as the scope, what is that to be defined with, and why this is needed. So why are this application we are developing and what are the objectives we want to achieve out of it. So all these things comes under the first level when we are talking about SOP document itself is concerned. So the next we need to know about the audience and others, like for what purpose this application or a documentation, the application we are developing. At the same time, the kind of language skills followed by the existing knowledge that particular audience has, followed by this, if there is any kind of end user engagements, all this stuff, that information will be updated here. At the same time, formatting and writing style is also required because pre-existing layout followed by any visual representation of the flowcharts or the hierarchical steps, followed by the steps, what is that we need to follow, everything will be mentioned under this. At the same time, we need to write down the information which is relating to the testing part. So tested whether what is that the testing procedure are we required to follow, what are the test life cycle procedures do we require to follow to test the application. At the same time, finally, for what purpose we are doing is to accept by the end user. That is essentially required so that end users, based upon the end user result, what they see, customer will take up the project, right? So that's what generally the end user test and reviews will be done. Followed by this, if there is any adjustments kind of stuff, that also will be mentioned in it. At the same time, distribute and train, where this standard operating procedure libraries has to be mentioned in this. At the same time, what are the target distribution process to be required to follow? Followed by this, we need to make and ensure the comprehension, all that. Last but not least, we need to review and update the regular validations of the work, what is that we need to perform, as well as the kind of process and procedure, what is that we have followed. Followed by this, if there is any kind of feedback to be taken into an account so that we can ensure the feedback what people have given so that it will be useful for us to increase the quality of work, what we have to perform and all everything into the next level. This is what generally the standard operating procedure life cycle is completely. Now, when we talk about the scope of the SOP part, because most of the people may have a doubt here, right? So what kind of scope we need to understand in reference to the SOP part and what kind of questions we need to know about it. So wherein the first thing we need to know about where the SOP it is to be used, that should be known to them. Anyone whoever is working on, they must be knowing about where the SOP it is to be used and where it is not applicable. Example, the kind of areas, what is that we need to perform, that should be known to us well in advance, where standard operating procedures are being used and where not to be. Next, who is the standard operating person aimed for and for what purpose it is being prepared with? Because is it something relating to operations team or is it relating to the testing team or management team? So that sort of idea should also be required when we are preparing SOPs. At the same time, we have to be very clear about the kind of is there any kind of specific limitations or expectations that need to be called out or not. So that information should also be known to us well in advance. So based on that, we must be knowing about the kind of purpose of preparing. So why is this SOP is required? So this is majorly used to provide some guidance to the team so that they can work on that, all these. So this is all about the purpose of developing and SOPs, all that stuff. So this is in this usually there are some formatting styles as I mentioned because there are some formatting styles and procedures which require to follow by us so that we will be knowing about what is that we are going to perform, and how is this we are going to perform this, and what process to be taken into an account when we are writing this SOPs, all that stuff. So this is what one must be knowing here. So this is what generally the life cycle of standard operating procedure, irrespective of the technology, irrespective of the domain, one has to be prepared. So this will give you a clear understanding about the kind of steps of SOP to prepare, especially in connect to an IT application or something. Because people has to know about the scope and purpose. People should be knowing about audience and others. People should be knowing about the kind of format styles and writing styles, all that. They must be knowing about the testing procedure. At the same time, the kind of comprehension of ensuring more about SOP libraries, all that. At the same time, finally, last but not least, we need to review and update the validate information so that if there is any kind of flaws we have, so that it can be corrected, so that feedback can be considered as ensured. Puff. So this is where generally this standard operating procedures, which normally any organization follow in order to make their work more qualitative and better. So for more information regarding this SOP part, if anybody requires any kind of training in reference to preparation of SOP documentation, irrespective of the kind of role we performs and plays and all, if any kind of training and as less coaching followed by the consulting needs you have, please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.